My name is Sophia Harrington, and I am 78 years old. For most of my life, people called me the backbone. Not glamorous, not the star, but the quiet force who kept the Harrington family afloat. I ran the books for my late husband's construction firm, raised our only son, and when the company crumbled after his passing, I sold land, cashed bonds, and sacrificed the dreams we once built to make sure Benjamin, my boy, never had to feel the earth fall beneath his feet. Tonight, I stood in the glittering ballroom of the Conrad Hotel, dressed in my navy wool suit and pearl earrings, my hair pinned tight in the bun I'd worn since the 70s. I wasn't here to shine. This was Benjamin's night, his company's grand launch. Investors gathered like eagles in steel grey suits, champagne spilling like victory. The logo of his new empire glowed behind him in gold and silver. The master of ceremonies called for family remarks. My knees trembled, but my hands stayed firm as I stepped forward, ready to honor my son. Just a few words, a blessing. That was all I planned. But before my lips could part, Benjamin snatched the microphone, his jaw taut, his eyes flashing with something colder than ambition.
You're a relic, Mum, a bygone antique with nothing but dusty stories. Don't ruin my new life.
Laughter rippled through the room. Journalists, investors, even Sabrina, his polished wife in her blood-red dress.
Seriously, she still uses a rotary phone.
The crowd erupted again, brittle and cruel. The words didn't just hit me, they hollowed me out. My own son, my boy who once clutched my hand at night when storms shook the windows, had erased me in front of the world. And yet, as the laughter rang like broken glass against my ears, my fingers brushed the clutch in my hand. Inside it was a fountain pen, but not just any pen. A pen that carried a secret, a safeguard. A clause buried so deep, Benjamin never saw it coming. I did not press it yet. Timing was everything. So I smiled, thin and steady, while inside, the weight of decades settled into a single thought. If he wants me gone, then tonight he will learn what it means to erase the wrong woman. The words, "You're a relic," echoed in my ears long after the ballroom applause swallowed them. My body was still there in that glittering cage of glass and steel, but my mind slipped backward, 15 years to a different storm. It was winter, 2008. The Colorado sky pressed grey against the mountains, snow falling so heavy it hushed the world into silence. I remember because the silence inside my house was louder than the snow outside. My son had just arrived, shoulders sagging beneath his expensive coat, his breath sharp with panic. He was 32 then, still too young to hide fear from me.
Mum, if I lose this deal, I lose everything. I need capital, just until the banks ease up.
He didn't have to explain. I'd already heard about the crash. Homes foreclosed, loans called in, entire firms dissolving overnight. He was in real estate. He was drowning. And like every mother before me, I didn't think twice about throwing myself into the water with him. I had one thing left. Land. 20 acres in the foothills. The dream my late husband and I once carved into sketches of a retirement cabin, a wraparound porch, gardens where we'd drink coffee watching the Blue Ridges rise. It was worth millions, or it would have been, if the market hadn't collapsed. Now buyers circled like vultures, offering pennies. Against every instinct I signed, sold it low, gave Benjamin the liquidity he needed. My dream, our dream, vanished with a stroke of a pen.
You saved me, Mum. I'll never forget this.
But memory is fragile. Gratitude is even weaker. When the market rebounded, when land values shot up beyond imagination, Benjamin's voice sharpened like a blade.
You cost me millions, Mom. If you had vision, we'd own half the state by now.
My heart clenched, not just at the words, but at the rewriting of history. He wasn't the desperate son begging at my table anymore. He was the self-proclaimed visionary, and I, the mother who had saved him, was painted as the fool who had ruined him. That day, I understood something cruel. A child's gratitude has an expiration date. When it passes, all that remains is contempt. And as the snow of that memory melted away, I returned to the ballroom, my fingers brushing that pen inside my clutch. A safeguard, a fortress, the kind of protection I wished I'd had in 2008. The applause in the ballroom roared again, but I didn't hear it. My mind tugged me further back, to something smaller than land or money, yet sharper in its cut. It was Benjamin's birthday, his 35th. By then, Sabrina had fully woven herself into his world, a woman of poise and polish, always one step away from mockery. I'd cooked what I had cooked every year since he was a boy. Beef roast, slow cooked, seasoned the way his father once taught me. Tender enough that Benjamin used to grin with juice dripping down his chin. The table smelled like home that night, rich and warm. I placed the platter in the center, smiling, remembering the years he called it his birthday tradition.
Greasy, outdated.
She slid her own dish to the middle, a layered vegan cake, frosted green and white, decorated with edible flowers.
We're modern now, Mom. Nobody eats heavy stuff anymore. Times have changed.
Benjamin laughed, and that laugh cut deeper than her words.
Yeah, Mom, she's right. That roast belongs in the Stone Age.
They blew out candles on Sabrina's cake while my roast sat untouched, cooling on the counter. I stood there with the spatula still in my hand, watching my tradition, our tradition, become obsolete in one casual dismissal. It wasn't just food. It was history, love, sacrifice, boiled down to grease and mockery. What hurt most wasn't the erasure itself, but the double standard. When I gave, it was outdated. When Sabrina gave, it was visionary. I scraped the roast into foil that night, whispering to myself, "Remember this." And I did. I remembered every smirk, every jab hidden behind Sabrina's smile, every moment Benjamin defended her cruelty while holding my past against me like a crime. The roast was just the beginning. Back in the ballroom, as I stood beneath the lights with cameras flashing, the memory left a bitter taste on my tongue. My pen felt heavier in my hand. This wasn't about one insult, it was years, layer upon layer, erosion so slow it seemed invisible until one day the foundation was dust. And tonight, they thought they had buried me beneath that dust. But they had forgotten something. I was the one who built the ground they stood on. Not everyone erased me. Not everyone. Every year on my birthday, even when Benjamin and Sabrina forgot, someone always remembered. Adelaide, his ex-wife. She never missed a year. Sometimes she brought chocolates, sometimes a thrift shop scarf, sometimes nothing at all. Just her arms around me, and that laugh that used to fill my kitchen when she was still family. She would sit at my little table, the one shoved against the wall of what they called my transition room, and pull out her phone.
All right, Sophia, today you're finally going to learn how to FaceTime without staring at your own forehead.
I'd groan, she'd laugh, and then she'd guide my hand across the screen with patience Sabrina never had. Adelaide never mocked me for being slow. She never rolled her eyes. She made me feel like I was worth teaching. And then there was Callista, my granddaughter. 8 years old, sunshine in human form. She'd sneak into my room with crayons, curl up at the foot of my bed and chatter endlessly while sketching flowers, houses, sometimes boats with sails too big for their paper. "Grandma," she whispered once, pressing a drawing into my hand. "If they're mean, just come live with me. I'll make you pancakes every morning." She was too young to know pancakes can't shield you from cruelty. But her loyalty, pure, unshaken, was a shield all the same. When Adelaide and Callista came, I felt human again. I felt like someone's mother, someone's grandmother, not just the burden Sabrina painted me to be. They were my reminder that not everyone rewrote my story. Some still honoured it. So when Kelly, my old friend, sharp as ever, showed up after the humiliation at Benjamin's launch party, her words landed on soil, already softened by loyalty.
This ends now, not if we make erasure impossible.
And I realised maybe I wasn't as alone as Benjamin wanted me to believe. Kelly arrived 2 nights after the humiliation went viral. She didn't knock politely. She stormed in, snow dusting her coat, briefcase clutched like a weapon. I hadn't seen her in years, but her presence filled the little room the way it once filled courtrooms.
I watched the clip. The way he grabbed that microphone from you, the way she laughed. No, absolutely not. This ends now.
I tried to wave her off, voice small. "It's too late, Kelly. They've erased me already."
Not if we make erasure impossible.
From that briefcase, she pulled out papers, thick and precise, written in the kind of legal language that can reshape lives. She called it an elder respect clause. Simple, devastating, airtight.
If Benjamin or Sabrina ever publicly mocks, humiliates, or disrespects you, and it's verifiable by witnesses, recordings, or testimony, all controlling stakes in Benjamin's company, the deed to the $2.4 million house, and the family yacht immediately transferred to a successor trustee.
I blinked, stunned. To who?
Adelaide.
I laughed at first. The ex-wife? The one Sabrina despised? The one Benjamin dismissed?
If they think you're powerless, let them learn what happens when loyalty outweighs ambition.
My heart thundered. Could I do this? Could I strip my own son of everything he thought was his? Then I remembered the roast cooling untouched on the counter, the land sold in desperation, the words, "You cost me millions, Mum," the laughter, "She still uses a rotary phone." Yes, I could. My hand didn't tremble as I signed. Kelly closed the folder with a snap that sounded like justice.
This isn't revenge, Sophia. It's insurance. The kind no one can take from you.
That night, for the first time in years, I slept without fear pressing down on my chest. Because I knew, insult me once, erase me once more, and the empire would vanish from Benjamin's hands like smoke. They would never see it coming. By morning, it wasn't just me who carried the wound. The world carried it too. The young journalist in the corner of the ballroom, yes, the one whose eyes had widened like he'd witnessed blood spilled, had posted the clip online. By dawn, it had been shared thousands of times. By noon, millions. Headlines screamed across every platform. Entrepreneur publicly humiliates his mother at launch. The cruelest speech of the year, innovation or ingratitude. The footage played on a loop. Me stepping forward, Benjamin seizing the microphone, his words slicing. "You're a relic, Mum. Don't ruin my new life." Sabrina's voice followed like venom. "Seriously, she still uses a rotary phone." Then the laughter, cruel and echoing. Strangers filled the comments with rage and pity. Some wrote, "That poor woman, she built him and he erased her." Others typed, "If he treats his own mother this way, imagine how he runs a company." Reporters camped outside my little house. Neighbours whispered when I went to fetch the mail. Adelaide came by with groceries, shielding me with her coat as cameras flashed.
Don't listen to them, Grandma. They don't know you.
Benjamin, on the other hand, doubled down. At a press conference 2 days later, when asked about the clip, he smirked.
"I love my mother, but progress doesn't wait for sentimentality. The past is heavy. I'm building the future."
The crowd of reporters scribbled like he'd said something profound. But I knew. Those words would be his undoing, because every insult, every recorded dismissal, every laugh at my expense, they weren't just cruelty anymore. They were evidence. And Kelly had already begun collecting them, threading them into the claws that sat silent, waiting, like a fuse unlit. I sipped my tea by the window that night, the chatter of commentators rising from the television behind me. Let the world debate. Let them dissect. I had no need to shout. The trap was already set. And Benjamin, so proud, so blind, had already stepped inside it. Long before the lawsuits, the contracts, the companies, there was just a boy. My boy. I still remember the day as clearly as if it were etched into my skin. Benjamin was 9 years old, all gangly arms and restless energy, darting ahead of me on a summer afternoon in Denver. We were walking home from the market when he wandered too close to the railway crossing. "Benjamin!" I shouted, but he didn't hear. A streetcar clanged down the rails, fast, unstoppable. My heart lurched. Without thinking, I dropped the grocery bags and ran. My hands shot out, grabbing the back of his shirt just as the streetcar screamed past, wind whipping my hair across my face. I dragged him to the sidewalk, my knees scraping the pavement. My chest heaved like it might break apart. Benjamin looked up at me, wide-eyed, terrified. Then his little body shook, not with fear, but with tears.
You saved me, Mom.
That night, he clung to me in bed, afraid to close his eyes. I stroked his hair and whispered lullabies until sleep finally claimed him. For years after, he told everyone I was his hero, the woman who pulled him back from the tracks, the mother who carried him through storms. Funny how memories rot in some hearts. By the time he was grown, he didn't see me as a hero anymore. He saw me as an anchor dragging him down. I thought about that moment often after the launch party. How I had once saved his life with my hands, but now, at 78, the same hands were dismissed as dusty. He had forgotten that I had always been there, standing between him and disaster. But I hadn't forgotten, which is why, when Kelly handed me the fountain pen with its hidden trigger, I didn't hesitate to carry it into that ballroom. If I had pulled him from the tracks once, I could certainly pull him off the empire he thought was his. One day soon, Benjamin would remember that his mother never let him fall until he pushed her too far. It started with the photographs. One morning I walked into the den and saw that the mantel, once crowded with frames, had been stripped bare. The wedding photo from 1978, me in lace, my late husband in his navy suit, gone. The picture of Benjamin in his Little League uniform, glove too big for his hand, gone. Even the faded Polaroid of my mother holding baby Benjamin, both of them smiling into history, gone. In their place, glossy new frames of Sabrina and Benjamin at galas, Sabrina on red carpets, Sabrina influencing under perfect light, not a wrinkle in sight, not a past in sight. When I asked, voice trembling, "Where are the old pictures?" Sabrina didn't even look up from her phone.
They were clutter, Sophia. No one wants to see yellow paper when we have digital galleries now.
Digital galleries, cold pixels replacing the warmth of fingerprints. Next went the traditions. Thanksgiving turkey replaced by catered sushi spreads. Christmas carols drowned under playlists of curated holiday ambience. No one sat around the piano anymore. No one lit candles by hand. Everything pre-packaged, everything filtered, everything performed for an audience that wasn't family, but followers. Even my rocking chair, the one I nursed Benjamin in, vanished one morning.
It didn't fit the aesthetic. Try living in the present.
Living in the present. To her, the present meant spotless surfaces scrubbed free of me.
Grandma, why don't they like your pictures?
Her small face folded in confusion, as though love itself should have been obvious. I didn't know what to say, so I just held her hand, tighter than I should have, praying she would remember at least one holiday, one story, one song before they were scrubbed clean. And every time I saw another piece of my life disappear, another photograph, another heirloom, another recipe, I thought of Kelly's folder tucked safely away. The elder respect clause, the invisible fuse waiting for a spark. They thought they were erasing me, but what they were really doing was writing their own undoing, frame by frame, tradition by tradition. It happened on a Sunday morning, sunlight cutting sharp lines across the marble counters of Benjamin's too-perfect kitchen. Sabrina stood at the island, arranging imported berries into a crystal bowl like she was styling a magazine cover. Benjamin scrolled on his phone, absent as usual. I was at the stove trying to stir oatmeal the way Callista liked it, when Adelaide arrived with a paper bag of fresh bread from the local bakery. She never knocked. She still carried herself like family, and in my heart, she always would be. Adelaide didn't flinch. She set the bread down with deliberate care, then smiled at me.
Brought your favorite, Sophia. Multigrain still warm.
That's thoughtful, Adelaide.
Thoughtful? She doesn't live here. She doesn't belong here.
The air froze. Callista, colouring at the table, lifted her head, eyes darting between the women.
Funny, I don't remember kindness needing an invitation.
Sabrina snapped her phone onto the counter.
What you call kindness, I call interference. You're just clinging because you can't let go of a life that doesn't include you anymore.
And then, for the first time, Adelaide turned her full gaze on her, calm, unshaken, like a storm gathering strength.
No, Sabrina. I come here because Sophia matters. Because she built the life you're busy rebranding as your own. You can replace her photos, mock her recipes, erase her songs, but you will never erase her worth. Not while I'm breathing.
Benjamin shifted uncomfortably, eyes flicking between them, but he didn't defend me. He never did.
That's rich coming from an ex-wife. Maybe you should look in a mirror before you preach loyalty.
Adelaide's jaw tightened, but she didn't back down.
At least I remember where I came from. At least I remember who gave me a place at this table. Do you?
The silence that followed was heavier than stone. Even Benjamin couldn't meet my eyes.
Grandma, she's on our side, right?
I nodded, throat tight, because in that kitchen, for the first time in years, someone had said aloud what I had been too weary to shout. That I mattered. And in Sabrina's glare, I saw it. The first crack in her perfect, polished facade. 3 weeks after the launch party scandal, I heard a knock at the door. Not the sharp rap of Sabrina's impatience, not Adelaide's cheerful tap. This was lighter, hesitant. When I opened it, there he stood, the young journalist from the ballroom. His eyes were clearer now, sharper, carrying the weight of a story that hadn't let him sleep.
Mrs. Hale, do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
I wanted to shut the door. My name had already been dragged through enough screens, enough comment sections, but something in his gaze stopped me. Not hunger for clicks, hunger for truth. I let him in. He sat across from me at the little table, notebook poised. People saw the clip, he began, but they don't know you. They don't know the years before. His pen hovered. Would you let me tell it? My throat tightened. For a moment, I saw it all. Benjamin as a boy clinging to my dress. Adelaide laughing in the kitchen. Callista's tiny fingers curled around mine. The roast left cooling, the mantle stripped bare, the laughter at my expense. I shook my head. It isn't my story they want, it's his. Benjamin is the rising star. Sabrina is the face they crave. Me? I'm just the ghost in the corner.
Ghosts don't go viral, Mrs. Hale. People watched because they recognized something. A mother erased, a generation dismissed. You're not just his shadow. You're the story he doesn't want told.
The words hit me like cold water. The story he doesn't want told. I didn't answer. Not then. But as he left, slipping me his card, I caught my reflection in the window. Not frail, not fading, just waiting. Behind me, Kelly's folder sat untouched in the drawer, the claws humming like a silent engine. Between her safeguard and this journalist's curiosity, I began to wonder, maybe I didn't have to stay erased. Maybe the world was ready to remember me. But memory is dangerous. And if Benjamin caught wind that the story was shifting, well, even empires built on erasure can burn. Benjamin always thought his empire was bulletproof. Clean lines, glossy ads, speeches rehearsed to perfection. But empires don't crack from the outside first. They crack from within. It began with the investors. One by one, they pulled Benjamin aside after meetings, their questions laced with unease.
Your brand relies heavily on family values, doesn't it? Do you plan to address the video with your mother? Public trust is delicate, Benjamin. You can't innovate past a scandal.
He brushed them off with his usual smile, the same smile that once charmed teachers and bankers alike. But charm is fragile when trust is bleeding out. At home, Sabrina grew sharper. Every slip in Benjamin's composure, every hesitant glance she pounced on.
"You're letting her drag you down," she hissed one night when she thought I couldn't hear. "The old woman is poison. If you don't cut ties completely, you'll lose everything."
I stood in the hallway, her words slicing into me like glass. Poison, I who had once saved him from a streetcar, I who had held his fevered body through nights when he couldn't breathe. Poison. Meanwhile, the journalist's calls kept coming. Each time I let the phone ring, staring at his name, at the decision it demanded.
Every question you dodge, she said, is another brick in their wall of lies.
But I wasn't ready. Not yet. Still, I could feel it. The empire shifting beneath their feet. Investors doubting, journalists circling, Adelaide steadying me, Callista whispering her fierce little promises. Cracks were spidering across Benjamin's perfect glass kingdom. And the thing about glass is simple. Once it breaks, it never mends the same way again. It was a Tuesday evening, quiet, except for the hum of the chandelier and the faint chatter from the news streaming in the background. I sat in the corner of the living room, knitting, trying to be small in a house I once helped fill with laughter. Sabrina stood by the window, glass of wine in hand, her voice low but sharp.
"Benjamin, it's simple. As long as she's here, you look weak. Investors are already nervous. You have to make a decision."
She's my mother, Sabrina.
"She's dead weight. You want to scale your empire or drag around a relic? Because you can't have both."
Adelaide, who had just come from the kitchen with Callista trailing behind, froze at the words. Her eyes flashed, but before she could speak, Callista darted forward.
Don't talk about Grandma like that. She's not dead weight. She's the only one who cares about me.
The room went still. Sabrina's lips parted, ready to snap, but Adelaide stepped in, her voice low and steady, the steel of a protector.
She's right, Sabrina. You've mistaken ruthlessness for strength. And Benjamin, if you stand there and let your wife erase the woman who raised you, then maybe you don't deserve what you've built.
Benjamin's jaw tightened. He looked at me, finally looked at me, like a man caught between two cliffs. For the briefest second, I saw the boy at the tracks, the boy who once whispered, "You saved me, Mum."
"Well, choose."
My son's silence thundered louder than any words. He didn't defend me. He didn't defend her. He just looked away, eyes fixed on the glass walls of his empire, as if they mattered more than blood. Callista burst into tears. Adelaide pulled her close, glaring at him like she no longer recognized the man she once loved. And me? I just sat there, knitting, unraveling in my hands, the decision I had made with Kelly's pen burning hot in my memory. Because this wasn't just betrayal anymore, this was confirmation. Benjamin had made his choice, and soon he would live with mine. The night after Benjamin's silence, I couldn't sleep. Every word, every look replayed in my head like a broken record. I lay awake in the guest room, staring at the shadows on the ceiling, clutching the fountain pen hidden in my nightstand drawer. At dawn, Kelly arrived. She didn't knock. She never did. She strode in with her leather briefcase, her eyes scanning my face before I could even greet her.
He chose, didn't he?
I nodded once. My throat felt raw, though I hadn't spoken. Kelly sat at the desk, pulling out papers and her laptop. Then it's time. We don't wait for another insult. We don't give them another chance. We strike while the world still remembers that ballroom humiliation. I hesitated. It will ruin him. It will.
Sophia, he already ruined himself. All we're doing is letting the consequences catch up.
She pressed the biometric reader into my hand. Cold, heavy, final. One press, Sophia. Your choice. I sat there, thumb hovering over the glass, my body trembling not with fear, but with the gravity of it all. In the next room, I could hear Callista's soft voice, Adelaide's laughter as they tried to make pancakes together, the sound of loyalty, of love.
Honestly, Benjamin, she should be in assisted living. It's embarrassing.
That was it. I pressed my thumb down. The reader beeped once. Kelly's laptop screen flickered to life. A cascade of contracts, signatures, and blockchain confirmations rippled across the screen like falling dominoes. House, transferred. Yacht, transferred. Shares, reassigned.
It's done.
I sat very still, the weight of decades pressing into me. My hands were trembling, but my heart felt strangely calm. Not revenge, not rage, just justice. And as the printer spat out confirmation pages, Kelly gathered them neatly into a folder. When the storm hits, Sophia, remember this. You didn't destroy your son, he destroyed himself. You just made sure the world couldn't ignore it. I nodded, silent, as the sound of pancakes sizzling carried down the hallway. Because I knew, by the end of the week, Benjamin's empire would no longer belong to him. It began with a phone call. I was sitting at the kitchen table sipping weak coffee when I heard it. Benjamin's voice roaring down the hallway. His footsteps thundered across the marble floor until he appeared, phone still clutched to his ear, face pale as if the blood had been drained from him.
What the hell is going on?
What now?
Benjamin slammed the phone down on the counter. The house! Our house! His voice cracked. It's not ours anymore. It's been transferred.
Transferred? To who?
Adelaide.
I kept my eyes on my coffee, steady as if I hadn't heard. And the yacht, he went on, pacing like a trapped animal. Gone. The company shares, locked out. Every document, every account, it's all been shifted. Legal, irrevocable. Sabrina's wineglass slipped from her hand, shattering against the tile. No, that's impossible. She couldn't.
What did you do?
I lifted my gaze slowly, the weight of 72 years steadying my spine. I protected myself.
You set me up. You betrayed me.
For a moment, anger surged hot in my chest, but then it cooled into something sharper. No, Benjamin, you betrayed me. In front of your friends, in front of strangers. You called me a relic. You erased me. The silence after my words was suffocating. Even Sabrina had nothing to add.
All my work. Everything I built.
You didn't build it alone, Benjamin. You never did. The world will know that now.
She laid the documents on the counter like a verdict. Legal stamps, official seals, irrefutable truth. Benjamin stared at them, his empire crumbling in black ink and signatures. You'll regret this. You'll regret crossing us. I met her gaze, calm as still water. No, Sabrina. For the first time in years, I don't regret a thing. And somewhere down the hall, I heard Adelaide's voice calling for Callista, the sound of pancakes and laughter spilling into the cracks of a broken empire. The news broke within 48 hours. Ex-wife gains control of tech empire after explosive contract clause, the headlines read. Reporters replayed the ballroom humiliation side by side with the court documents, dissecting every detail. Benjamin's defiant words, "None, she only drags me down," became the very evidence that stripped him of everything. Investors fled, contracts dissolved. Sabrina vanished from public view, her social media locked, her red dress glamour reduced to whispers of scandal. Benjamin tried to fight, of course. Lawyers, threats, desperate pleas, but every attempt collapsed against Kelly's ironclad framework. The elder respect clause had been crafted too carefully, too cleanly. And Adelaide, quiet Adelaide, stepped into her new role with grace. She didn't gloat, she didn't boast. She simply told the press, Sophia was the foundation. I'm just making sure her name isn't forgotten. The world nodded, and for the first time in years, my story was no longer a punchline. One evening, weeks after the chaos, I sat on Adelaide's porch, Callista curled against me, crayons scattered on the table as she worked on another drawing of a boat with sails taller than the sky. Kelly sat across from me, sipping tea, her sharp eyes finally softened with peace. "Do you feel lighter?" she asked. I thought about it. About the land I sold, the roast that went cold, the laughter that cut sharper than knives. About the word relic, carved into my bones like an epitaph. And then about this moment, the child at my side, the friend at my table, the ex-daughter-in-law who had chosen loyalty over ambition. "Yes," I said quietly, "not because I won, but because I endured." Callista lifted her drawing and placed it in my lap. In big, uneven letters she had written, "For Grandma, the strongest one." Tears stung my eyes, but I smiled. Because I finally understood. Being called a relic wasn't an insult. Relics last. Relics survive centuries, storms and betrayals. Relics tell the truth long after the noise fades. And as the sun set, painting the sky in streaks of gold, I whispered into the soft evening air, "Relics don't vanish, relics remember, and sometimes relics win."